to spill the secrets.
This is Universal Secrets with Tiffany Mack and Kevin Hale.
It's Tuesday night. You know what that means.
It's Tiffany Tuesday. Oh, I'm sorry. I did that again. It's Universal Secrets.
Tiffany Mack, Kevin Hale. It is Tiffany Tuesday.
Maria,
And
thank you so much for that hashtag. That's
Yeah,
hilarious. It really gives me a big head.
I know.
I know.
I was going to say, get the ego out of the way. But you've kind of earned that, at least with me. Yeah. I know where I stand in the pecking order of this show.
Kevin, if there was a K letter in one of the days of the week, it would be like
K rhymes with day. I've got it covered. At least
K-Day?
7 of those.
Oh, well, yeah. No, how about just K-Day every day?
Oh, all right. Maria, perform your magic with that hashtag. It is Universal Secrets on this Tuesday night, July 20th, 2021, exclusively streaming live, exclusively on our Facebook, Twitch, YouTube channels. And that's the video portion. The audio, you can check out on Earth Radio. Our
Thank
friends
you,
there
Ron. Yes.
doing
And Bobby. Bobby's helping to do that too.
Yeah, we'll do a roll call in a second. Tiffany, how are you?
I'm doing good. Finally, I feel better today. Feeling good.
Do you?
Yeah. I got all my chores done. So I'm
That's
in good
good.
standing with the
That's good to
husband.
know.
Yeah.
We had before we dive into the show, we got to hang out Saturday night. Something we don't live too far apart, relatively speaking. But we made a commitment to hang out and talk about this event that we got coming up, and we'll plug that in a second. But from me to you, it's great hanging with you guys.
It was great hanging with you. Yeah.
You and the husband. Compliments to Chef Sipley.
He's the best cook.
Had great dinner, great conversation, a couple bottles of wine.
A couple magnums of wine.
Yeah, we a mimosa. I was craving that.
Yeah, and Brent made you the mimosa. It was a special one.
He did. He added the cranberry. I hadn't had the cranberry before. I'm kind of cheap with the just orange juice, and
he just made it a little fancy.
He did with the glass and everything. So,
oh yeah. Well, you can't drink a mimosa in something other than a champagne flute.
That yeah, you're right.
Yeah, because otherwise it's just like it's not as fancy, not as fun. It's all part of the frills of having a mimosa, having a delicate glass.
I'm with you now. So much appreciated to Saturday night. Again, we got together to talk about an event that we're putting together. And we'll talk about that in a second, but I got to say something. As the night was winding down, and we knew it was kind of winding down because it was getting late. Had a great time sitting on your deck, shooting the shit, you and Brent. And before we knew it, it was just Brent and I conversing. And we're like, where the hell is Tiffany? And I'm thinking, man, it's late. Let's go see. Maybe I'm going to go in and there's a portal that's opened up and you're like caught in it. No offense. I would just like to see that. A beam of light. But now Brent comes back from the bedroom and you're sound asleep.
Well, people, I'm allergic to alcohol. So if I have a little bit more than I should, which is probably more than I probably shouldn't have any, but I'm not deathly ill. I just turn bright red and I can't help it. I just decided to crash. Decided not even to say goodbye. Didn't say
Okay.
goodbye. I just went to bed. Sorry, people. That's what happens. So if I just vanish, it's either abduction or Tiffany just had to crash. So
Well, with us, you and I, it shouldn't be goodbye. It should be until the next time. So
right.
that's
Yes.
yeah. So
I don't do that often, but apparently I needed to take a nap. So.
And when I talked to you Sunday, correct me if I'm wrong, you slept got some good sleep, right?
I did. I slept like 12 hours. I needed it.
You needed it, and your body needed it. So good for you.
I mean, I woke up fine. I just needed to go to bed at the time that I went to bed.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep. So,
before we
I'm not the only one that's ever happened to. I'm sure.
Yeah, no,
so.
And you're not the first. Definitely won't be the last. Before we go into some this event we got coming up, and then bringing on our guests, which to me, tonight's going to be a cool show. I'm going to say Cheryl Costa, someone that I've recently gotten familiar with. I've seen her on, shows with Grant Cameron, and I just love her personality. I'm like, man, we got to get her on because we'll just have some fun for the entire show. And plus she's done some books in regards to sightings and statistics, and me being a business analyst by day, I'm kind of very anal when it comes to numbers. Stats don't lie, Tiffany.
Depends on where you get them from, I'd say. But this is a very well researched novel. Not even novel. This is a desk reference guide.
Bible.
It is like it's the. It's
we'll
like
share that when she comes on.
We will.
We'll do
I
that.
know.
Let's before we start talking anymore, do the roll call, because we're always happy that our audience is hanging with us and keeping us company.
Yes. So Maria was the first one to check in this evening, and Bobby was the second. Ron, Charles Smar. Let's see, Andy Morrow, Marco. We've got Erica Barnes. Happy Tuesday. We have, let's see, I saw Queen Colleen in there.
Mama.
Oh, yep. We've got Yuffie and Tracy Austin. Hey, Tracy. Yeah. So we've got a lot of good people in here.
Tracy's probably going to be a guest in the next few weeks. Sometime in August.
Yeah, sometime soon. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah.
You're hanging tonight?
Yeah. As always, we appreciate our company, our friends hanging with us and chatting it up in the chat room and asking questions and comments. But before we bring Cheryl on, Tiffany, there was a reason why we did get together. Not just, more than to hang out. We have a good time when we're hanging out. But, you and I did this thing last September 2020, that we labeled, actually, it was you labeled it, Contact at the Compound. It's at your place. We did a live stream on our Facebook page or whatever, and we talked some cryptids and some UFO stuff, and we had some guests, and then which we had a good time. It was definitely an excuse for us to hang out. So when you and I started talking about doing Contact at the Compound 2, you wanted to swing for the fences. And I was like, okay, I'll come along for the ride. You had a plan, and this plan is really starting to come to fruition. So we can't, I don't want to go into the heavy details yet of, say, guests, but I'm going to share this. This is what we definitely can share. So this is it. This is one of our early drafts.
I love that.
Contact at the Compound 2, and the aliens represent two aliens.
Yeah.
One day there might be 20 of them on there. You don't know. It's going to be a weekend event. October 9th is a Saturday. And we're doing something Friday and Saturday. The live stream, we're going to do a live stream Saturday the 9th, October 9th at 8 p.m. on our Facebook and YouTube pages. Give them a little tease on what this is going to be.
Well, anybody that's listened to the one from last year, we have my husband who's going to be talking cryptids. And then we're going to have another couple who's coming down to visit, and we'll be talking Bigfoot as well. So we're going to have a lot of Bigfoot stories for a little bit of this. We're definitely going to be heavy with UFOs because the people that are coming are mostly abductees. And so this is going to be the big, hot and heavy contact that we're looking for. And we're hoping to be able to have a CE5 type meditation and try to call some in on the Friday night so that we have some stories to share with you about what has been going on at the compound. So we have a few people that are scheduled to be here who are sort of known for being able to call them and they show up. So we're going to have a lot of eyes on the sky on the Friday night, and we'll have videos, and we're going to do a little bit of an investigation down at our magic tree, which is a 600-year-old bur oak tree that we've actually heard a lot of voices down by the magic tree. We hear little girls giggling. We hear people saying, is he here? Oh, he's here. We're over here. We're over here. And you can hear these things in our woods, and there's nobody around. So there's going to be a little bit of an investigation for Friday night, and that's just part of the festivities and part of the fun. And there's been 3 Bigfoot sightings within a mile of our property. So I'm sure that Brent is going to bring some Bigfoot howls and try to instigate the big hairy man to call back. I mean, it is in the fall. We'll see. Maybe part of the Yeti Trail or the Sasquatch Trail. We'll see. But we do have some super duper guests. We've gotten 2 flights situated, and we have some other people who will be driving in. And this is not something you're not gonna want to miss it. You're not gonna want to miss it.
This, when we pull this off, and right now there's no reason for this not to happen, as of right now. That will be at that moment the biggest thing we've done together. So
yeah. Well, I mean, I was able to go to the 2016 UFO conference in the Ozark Mountains with KGRA. I loved it. But this is a private event, so I'm not going to have people who feel like they have to be in the limelight and on best behavior and signing autographs and answering questions like that. So it's going to be a little bit different. This is going to be a private event at our home.
So I should leave my Sharpie at home. Is that what you're saying? I don't need my Sharpie.
No, you probably don't need your Sharpie, but okay. But we will be sharing ideas and trying to come up with best ways to make contact. And this is an event for us to get together and share with our audience. And maybe in the future we'll be able to invite other people and sort of make it a little bit larger event. I mean, I have 50 acres. If people want to come and camp and tent, I don't think that we would have a problem with that in the future if they're willing to make the trip. So we'll let you know how that goes. And this is something that I'm pouring my heart into, and Kevin is going to be my right-hand man, and we're going to make this happen. And it's going to be fun. There's going to be food, big country breakfast.
It's going to be an event. It's going to be
big dinners. It's going to be fun. So I really hope.
Yeah, it will be the biggest deal in our show history.
And we're looking at about 12 guests who are pretty heavy hitters. So
So
we're really blessed to have a lot of people that have said yes.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, I do my best to manipulate manipulate the situation to include you so they don't say no. I guess maybe that's the best way, but
okay.
Anyway, tell us about our guest. Who's on tonight?
Oh my gosh, Cheryl Costa is our guest tonight, and I am so excited to have her on. She has, along with her lovely bride, sent me this and signed it for me, and I am so grateful to have this in front of me. This book. Look at this book. First of all, look how much data is in this. This is not just a novel. This is data.
It's not a little book either. I mean,
no.
This is what, an 8 by 10 kind of book.
This might be the biggest UFO book that I've ever seen. And working my way through this was a little bit of a challenge because the numbers I had to just sort of glance over because I don't get the numbers. Nope. But reading this is amazing. The work that was put into this book, it just boggles the mind because, we just had this document that rolled out at the end of June and was talking about 144 sightings and only so many were known. And it made it look like maybe there were only 144 sightings of UFOs during these years. But when you look at a book like this, you start realizing they don't know what they're talking about. Either that
book said, hell no.
Yeah, the book said, hell no. There's a lot more UFOs and a lot more people out there who are willing to share the information on those. And so I'm so excited to have Cheryl on to help us break it down.
We're Cheryl. So excited, and we just can't hide it.
Welcome.
Thank you.
How are you tonight, Cheryl?
Very good.
Good. I hope we did the intro.
It's been a strange day. It really has been a strange day.
I feel you there.
I could not look. I'm making a modification on the database, and I can only do about maybe 20,000 lines a day. So it's going to take me about another week and a half to do these. And today I came back from an appointment I had, and I just couldn't face it. So I cleaned off the dining room table. I got out a particular shirt I wanted to duplicate, and I laid it out there, and I made a pattern.
There you go.
And I have not been sewing for months because I was working on this book. So this was fun. I got to sit down with all my drafting tools, make a beautiful pattern, cut it all out. It's ready to go. And
apparently you needed a hobby away from your hobby.
Yeah.
So the work that you've done, you'd need to take a little bit of a break every once in a while, because I can't imagine the stress that you went through just to get to the point where you were ready to publish it.
Let me share one thing that goes with this. Okay, we did our first book back in 2017, and it was 2001 through 2015. There was 120,000 sightings. And we didn't know what we were doing. Processes that we used to clean up the data from National UFO Reporting Center, NUFORC, or MUFON, Mutual UFO Network. The process, each of their databases has to be cleaned up a certain way. And what works for one doesn't work for the other. And processes that took us like a month to do back in 2016, I do in a day now. Okay.
Wow. Yeah.
And stuff that took us 2 months to do back then, I do in a week now. Okay. So the trick we learned, both Linda and I are former, what we called in the Washington, DC terms, Beltway bandits. I was a contractor. I worked for 32 years with Lockheed Martin.
Oh, wow.
And she was with a firm that provided contract librarians to government libraries. She was the head librarian at the Environmental Protection Agency for 15 years.
Wow, that's impressive. Okay. Yeah, let's go
she
back.
Worked at the National Academy of Science. Smart. She's the science brains in this household. She's got the master's degree in science. I got the arts and entertainment degree, the top hat and the cane. I've got the arts and entertainment, a bachelor's degree in entertainment writing and production. And but my background was in the Navy. I was in 2 military services. I was a telephone lineman in Vietnam, and then I was in the Cold War Navy, submariner. I was on senior electronic warfare specialist. So essentially, intelligence gets involved with that, so to speak. So I was bringing to this project, when we decided to do a census of UFOs back in 2016, we thought about this, and I was bringing old school intelligence skills to it, database skills, and 30 years of Lockheed Martin analysis skills. So that's the talent we brought into it. So Linda set the rules as a scientist. Okay, this is how we're going to do it, and we followed her rule book on how to do it. She wanted this thing to look like a college paper. Now, I had a cute little story with this. I had finished that bachelor's degree in 2015. It was a 40-year-old degree. Credit every couple of years. I was taking courses someplace. Finally found a place that would take all the credit.
Oh, okay. Wow. You're lucky.
Okay. Well, I had to still take 30 credit hours of what they call residency requirements, but they were fun because this college was one of these college without walls. So they could set me up with, you can either take an online course, you can take an actual in-person class, or you can have a mentorship with a professor, which is what I did. Okay. It was sort of like going to Oxford, you had that one-on-one relationship, I got to go in the office, sit down with a cup of coffee and argue history for 2 hours or something, and it was fun. So I got accepted into 2 master's programs coming out of that bachelor's degree. And one was in the liberal studies program. And they have a thing called a boot camp weekend where before the semester starts, they all meet at some big hotel up in Saratoga, New York. And you meet all the staff from the master's program and the chair, and you have a couple of dinners and all this kind of stuff. And the chair asked me what I wanted to do. And at that time I was writing my newspaper column about UFOs for the Syracuse New Times. Okay. Did that for 7 years. Right. And I said, I want to do a statistical study of UFO sightings. So she says to me, she's kind of frowns and she says, well, you can't do a master's degree on an imaginary subject.
Oh, snap.
This is in 2015. I thought
this
about
is Linda?
it. No. This is the chair of the department of this master's program. And so I went home, explained what happened. And I quit Monday morning. I quit the master's program and we started writing the book. Okay. For you. So the joke right now is that when we get done, we've done these 2 books. I was telling Tiffany in the break, if we generated all the material that we have and put it all in one book, it would be 6,800 pages. It would be 3 Oxford dictionaries stacked on top of each other. So we're going to generate
on imaginary studies.
Yeah,
I would take that back and say, hey, would you like me to autograph this for you?
It's even better than that.
I'd argue that 2,000-year-old book is kind of imaginary too, but
it's no different than philosophy or theology, and if you know anything about libraries, and I have to because I live with a librarian, the Library of Congress annotation for religion is in the they do it in letters. Okay, it's in the BS section. This was figured out in the 19th century. Now our book, this book, and the other one, UFO Sightings Desk Reference 2001 to 2015, they have a TL designation. That because after exhaustive work in the cataloging department, it was determined that this is about vehicles and transportation.
Yes, it is.
Okay. And this is Library Congress backed it up because they didn't change it when Linda and her boss, who's like the preeminent authority on cataloging books okay, in the worldwide registry and everything, and the Library of Congress, very lovely Chinese lady, and they both agreed. They thought it was TL. They put that in the OCLC, and it was never changed by the Library of Congress. They would change it. It was
awesome.
So
That's
it's TL.
awesome.
This is a book about transportation, and it's right up there in a couple of dots away in the thing. They talk about airplanes, they talk about diesel trucks, they talk about boats, that and of course we talk about unidentified flying objects. Right now,
it should be right up there with Ford, Chevrolet.
Yes.
Chrysler.
So the deal is, we're going to do these 50 state books, and then we're going to do. There's 33 shapes, but a couple of the shapes are like NA, unknown, undescribed, whatever. But there's 29 actual definable shapes. So we're going to do 29 books on them. That's a total of about 85 books altogether. Okay. We're going to take them up to the State University of New York, who gave me my bachelor's degree, make an appointment with them. We're going to lay all these books out. I'm going to tell them a little story about the white book, that this should have been my master's degree. This is my PhD. And Amen. If you don't believe me, look at the rest of this. This is the largest compilation of compiled UFO data and analysis in human history. Don't you think we can both have our PhDs now?
Yeah, I'd say you've done the work.
The pink book. Yes.
Yeah.
You know what? Now, do you want the story why this is put pink?
Yes, you're reading my mind.
Okay. 2020, we'd just gone into lockdown. I'm having conversations with, how do I want to say this? The usual suspects in Washington, D.C. in the UFO business. Okay. And we got talking, and at this point, we're talking very seriously about the fact that there's probably going to be some kind of a big gaffe with the UFOs within Congress in 2021.
So they already knew that at that point?
Wired into the dark state, guys. Okay. And we were talking, hell, they were ready to do it. If Hillary had won the election, this is old news at this point. It didn't happen. So those people backed off and waited out the Trump administration.
Damn it, Putin.
Okay. Yeah. So here we are, we're in March of 2020, and we're talking about, this is, something's going to go down with this stuff, and we weren't even talking about the stuff with the Nimitz or anything like that. We weren't even talking those kinds of things. The idea of Jeffrey Corbell showing up with videos was not even thought of, So all this was talking about, and then somebody very pointedly, it's not the right word, candidly pointed out that Linda and I have produced at that point, had already produced for the first book, more statistical data and analysis of UFOs than did Project Blue Book. They had only 12,000. We had 121,000 in the first book. That's right. So, and we got talking, and again, these usual suspects is, if it's not all like swaggering pilots and former government spooks testifying before Congress, you're the only two people that have ever done the statistical analysis on this stuff ever. So Linda and I, we said, well, we're going to come out with the 2020 summary. He says, do it. I said, fine. So 2020, we sat down and we were looking at this, and we said two things. One, if we get called before Congress, picture this audience, two old gay ladies with AARP cards drawing pensions and Social Security, sitting in front of the congressman. Okay. We wanted to make sure that everybody knew they were thumbing through our book. So we decided, since this book was built by girls, we wanted it to be bright pink.
You did it.
Okay? And we dedicated it to Coral Lawrence, the first lady. She's like the mother of MUFON because she started APRO in 1952.
That's right. Yeah.
In 68, the Illinois chapter spun off. But when you think about it, she started all this gathering stuff. Mm-hmm. So we dedicated it to her.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, by the way, we're credited with one concussion. Some wife hit somebody over the head with this. And
I was gonna say
2.7 pounds, baby.
Also known as a weapon.
2.7 pounds. If we put the other book with it, it's 2.5 pounds. It's a 5-pound mailing. It really is. It's a big book. So that was the idea behind the idea of the pink book. Okay.
There you go.
Love it.
Senior. So, you know, I have since in the past week or so, last week was a really busy week. We worked very hard. We sent out 2 very large packages to the Select Intelligence Committee for the Senate and the Select Intelligence Committee for the House. They both got they got this book plus specialized reports that we designed just for them.
Wow.
And
let's stay right there for a second. That's a big freaking deal. Your books, your information is. Are you really, Cheryl? You're saying that the narrative right now that's going on with Big Brother, I guess you can call it Big Brother, everybody, your information is part of the equation. What they're digesting, what they're trying to figure out, because. Well, let's stay there because
the House representative got it from New York State. The House representative on that committee got his on Friday. Rubio will get his in about a day or so because it just went through all the security stuff and everything, postal inspectors and all that stuff.
That is crazy.
Tiffany. Yeah, because what we did for Rubio, besides giving him the book, I printed. It's a 1-inch thick 3-ring binder, and I printed them out. You know how politicians want zip codes? Okay. I printed them out, every zip code in Florida that had sightings, and it didn't just get the zip code and some numbers. It gave you every shape that zip code saw and all the numbers for the past 20 years for every one of those shapes. So it's like 1 inch thick. So he's got something nobody else on the planet has right now. And we said, we're the civilian experts on this topic. If you really want to get the big picture, you got to have us come and present to you.
Your book is your information is so detailed, it rivals like Google Earth. You know, when you start zooming in on a location, that's how deep, how much detail you're giving us with, all these sightings. Let's hold you. I know you got a thought, but I want to.
No, go ahead.
I want to bring a narrative or kind of go back a little bit.
Go ahead.
Sure. What was your rhyme and reason for the whole UFO fascination? Let's do the cheesy.
Let's figure out why you went. What started you on this path?
Was it a sighting? Was it experience? Was it
the aliens that took me out of my those little spacesuits mom puts you in with the little feet things and everything like that?
I love those.
Okay. When I was 4 or 5 years old, was it the aliens that took me out of mine, or was it the UFO I saw when I was 12 years old with my parents on a late August afternoon, 3 weeks before school started? If you hold your arm out and look at your little fingernail, that's how big that sucker was. And it was a sphere in a clear blue western sky. Okay. And my mother had my father pull the car over. We talked about it for a couple of minutes. She said it might be something NASA's doing. Hey, they were only 5 years old at that point. This is 65. It might be Air Force. It might be a weather balloon. And then she says, it might be people from another world. Of course, that fascinated the 12-year-old. My brother and sisters were toddlers, so they were oblivious. And we got back on the road, got to the bottom of the hill, turned left to go back to our hometown. I crawled up in the back window, that big old back window of that Chevy Impala. And I was like, who are you guys? Who are you guys? And when it decided to go, I didn't see an effect like that again until about 1992 with one of the Star Trek movies. Gone. Mm-hmm. Oh. And that a thing like that changes you. And, mom and dad, when you're a teenager, are stupid. Okay. Mom and dad are stupid. My mom and I developed a very interesting relationship. We didn't agree on a lot of other things, but we agreed on this topic matter. So we got books at the library, Frank Edwards, all those guys that were writing back then. And we'd bring them home and read them to each other and things like that. When Von Daniken's book came out, I was a junior in high school. She's dog-earing on the top of the book. I'm dog-earing on the bottom of the book. It was just destroyed, But I always had to keep it to myself. Okay. My second really serious sighting was Christmas, 11:30 at night, Christmas Eve in Cam Ranh Bay, Vietnam. a friend of mine and I were walking down to the base chapel to go to midnight mass for something to do. I wasn't even a Catholic anymore, but figured out tradition will go. So we were walking along and we were looking up. It was one of those gazillion stars in the sky kind of night. Okay. And we see this thing streaking across the sky. And of course, our tack was, it's a jet. And it stops. And
Jets don't stop.
My friend looked at me and says, jets don't stop. I said, helicopters don't fly that fast, and we would be in a position to know,
Yeah.
And I said, if that's what I think it is, I bet it's going to start dancing around like a fairy. Gone. Neither one of us had our minds on midnight mass when we got there, honest to goodness. It was that kind of thing. Zoom ahead. I had clearances. Later, when I was in the Navy, I had serious clearances. I couldn't talk about it. I couldn't join MUFON. It's very frowned upon in those days. And so it went along like this. In the late 1990, I had been out of town on a business trip, a long one for several months. Okay. And because I was going away and I was thinking of changing apartments, I put everything into storage. So I really didn't have an apartment to come back to. And I ended up being hospitalized while I was out in another state for 10 days with abdominal surgery. So I come back. I don't have an apartment to come back and recuperate in. A friend of mine says, here, my father's on chemotherapy. Here's the keys, my little bungalow over here, and feed the cat. Stay as long as you like.
That's a nice gig.
So I went over there. He didn't have cable. But he had first editions of everything that had been printed on UFOs to that point.
Did you know that ahead of time?
No.
Ah.
So with no cable, I went to college, so to speak, wow, every night reading something, he had everything Stanton Friedman had published up to that point.
Oh, shit.
And so I got heavy in it. Again, I couldn't talk about it, do anything with it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the first time I kind of let the guard down a little bit was about 2002. I hosted 98. I'm sorry, it's 98. Art Bell went off the air suddenly. Remember when that happened? Art Bell went off the air suddenly. Okay. And it was not long after they got George Norrie a couple of weeks later or whatever. But he went off the air. There was something happened out there in Pahrump, and he scared him and his family, and they just said, no more. Okay. So what happened was general manager for radio station I was associated with called me up and says, you know who Art Bell is? I said, yeah. He said, she says, well, we're thinking about, we're plugged into the Business Talk Network, and on weekends they're really hurting for programming. He says, do you think you could do a program, ancient civilizations, flying saucers, Bigfoot, all this stuff? I said, yeah. He says, we all thought you could. So for the next 2 years, every Saturday night for 2 hours, I was doing something called the X Factor. And I was the stop in Washington, D.C. if you had a book on this topic, any of these topic matters. Okay. That was the first time I ever kind of let down the guard a little bit, and it didn't hurt my clearance or anything. And then when I retired in 2011, I was out from underneath my clearance, and that's when I approached, approached about 7 other editors, and they all laughed me out of the office or had security escort me to the door when I suggested the idea of a UFO weekly blog or column or something. The editor for a weekly there, who had been a senior copy editor at the paper I worked for, but I worked in the technical department, and he said, come on over, let's talk. I heard you're out pitching a column. So I went over there and we talked for 20 minutes before he even looked at my slides. Okay. I had 5 pitch slides of why I thought the marketing, the demographics, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And he said, I'll try you for a month. I said, okay. And he had this tone like Dread Pirate Roberts in Princess Bride. I'm most likely to kill you in the morning, 4 weeks, So I said, okay, fine. I got 4 articles over to him. About a month later, he calls me up, come on over, we have to talk. I'm going, oh, that's it. It's over with. I come in, I'm late to the meeting. I come in and he's got all the columnists around this conference table, and I come walking in, he stops and he points at me and he says, "There's our rock star."
Oh, nice.
I looked at him. I said, "What are you talking about?" And he looks at the other columnists. They're all kind of hanging their heads, and he says, "You're pulling more page views than all of them combined. And you've only been here 4 weeks."
Wow.
About 6 months later, the digital editor who I reported to as we got doing this called me up and says, you're pulling a national audience on the live side, on the internet side. And then at the Christmas party, the publisher gets up there with the digital editor and says, she's got an international audience. So
that's sort of like, what are you suckers doing?
Yeah, what am I doing right here?
No, we know what you're doing right. It's like everybody else in the room is like, dang it, what am I doing wrong? I got to go and get into UFOs and aliens now.
Well, the audience has always been there. It's
Yeah.
just, you got.
That's what I kept trying to tell everybody.
Right. Yeah. You got people who are just, for whatever reason, and I don't mean to pick on religion or anything, but there's that stigma, or not stigma. There is this. Correct me if I'm wrong, Cheryl. There's this fact that there's members of Congress, and they lean on one side that do not want to talk about UFOs and aliens because they tie it to religion and the devil, and you're going to conjure up evil and all this stuff. This is.
Do you want to go there a minute? You want to go there a moment?
I have nothing but time, baby.
Okay. Okay. Lou Elizondo. Okay. I interviewed him 3 times as a journalist. Okay.
We're trying to. All right. So you're up on us for 3 times.
Well, it was easier to get a hold of him back then. I kept getting turned down for months and months and months because I had to go through the public relations agency associated with Tom DeLonge.
Oh,
okay.
Through the Stars.
Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. And they used his public relation agency, and they kept blowing me off. And finally, he's on George Norrie's program, and I'd been asking for months. And I said, "So when are you going to get me an interview with the guy?" "Well, yeah." And I says, "Tell you what, here's where my editor's position is. We've been trying very hard, and I've written 2 very positive articles, which you're going to get an email right now."
You're still with the Syracuse
at that time. Yeah. And so just around 2016, 2017, I'm sorry, it's right after the ATIP thing. So I said, "We have written 2 very positive articles about ATIP and about To the Stars. If you don't find a way to get me an interview with Lou Elizondo or Dr. Pudoff, we're going to get real yellow real quick on you." And it was going to be real tabloid. And I said, "Believe me, I can do it." And he said, "How's your editor? How's your editor?" Well, yeah, that's the other thing I explained to him. And he said, I told him my editor's 100% behind me on this because he's upset that I haven't been able to get this interview from out. So they got me the interview. Of course, we had a nanny representative from the public relations firm sitting there on the call with us. Okay. Now the other 2 times I talked to him, I was at the 2017 MUFON convention in Cherry Hill. So I got to have a quiet one over like a burger and a beer kind of thing. And then we had another quiet one over coffee and donuts at my vendor station kind of thing. But the deal is, I asked him in my official interview that I wrote articles about, we never published the transcript. My editor and I thought that there was stuff there that was explosive in the transcript. Okay. And we never wrote about it for a lot of reasons. I'm going to share one of the reasons right now. One of the reasons was I asked Lou, "How come you never could get your information up to Secretary Mattis?" He says, "Well, there were problems with middle-level management." Now, we did all the research, and we found out Harry Reid was hinting that there were some religious issues somewhere. There were people in the Pentagon who had religious scruples. "We don't want to touch the Prince of the Air," the devil. "We don't want, if it's touching the aliens, we're going to be touching demons. Oh, we can't be doing that." Okay. Mm-hmm. And that was the position as of, and when that, the Joint Task Force report came out, the reason that was so throttled down although they did use the word threat and security about 8 or 9 times each word. That's what's going to fuel congressional hearings. Those words are going to give the chairs and the committees the horsepower they need to hold congressional hearings. Okay, the words threat and security, national security. But I said, I talked to the inside guys I know, excuse me, and allergies, the pollen up here, something terrible. So they said there's a little war presently going on over in the Pentagon from the people who want to reveal all this stuff, lock, stock, and barrel, and the people who don't want to share this stuff with the American people. Now, please understand, this is a secret. All of this has been a secret that's been kept too long. Back in 1947, let's say Roswell really happened. Okay. Again, sorry about this.
That's all right.
I didn't hit my cough button. Little less than 10 years before, or some, excuse me, 1 second.
Get a drink. We can talk. I can feel it. I feel her. That's one thing that's been bothering me all day.
I saw a thing in the news before I got on the show that our air quality right now is in the toilet. So
probably.
Same here.
Okay. So in 1947, those government officials remembered that only about 8 or 9 years before, Orson Welles scared the snot out of the country with a radio program. And people had their kids in the backyard ready to shoot them in case the Martians come, because they were not going to let the Martians
People died.
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
Okay. And they were afraid that Mom Pa America was not going to be able to handle this. So they hushed it up. Plus, coming out of World War II, let's get an edge on whoever. Okay. So there was all that. So as it progressed, look at the flybys over Washington, D.C. in 52. 2 different weekends. They were out flying everything we got in here. And these idiots right now with the task force are acting like, oh, wow, we've never experienced this stuff that flies faster than we do,
Which is BS. I like the finger in the nose aspect.
Yeah, the people listening to the audio portion, you don't get that visual.
Yeah. Sorry. But that's part of the comedy routine. Yeah. But it's the truth, though. They're acting like they've never been dealing with this stuff before. I know clergy. I used to say, look at the collar here. I'm an ordained yogi. Okay. I represented the pagan community here in DC or in upstate New York at a regional clergy council for the last couple of years. Okay. I've talked to clergy who have told me, obviously they can't tell me details, but they told me that they have had more than one former fighter pilot come into their confessional and bare their soul that they experienced these things, and they couldn't catch them. They flew circles around their aircraft. They played games with them, all this stuff. Okay. So yeah, there's plenty of evidence out there, Stanton Friedman used to say, plenty of evidence if you're willing to look at it and not scoff at it. So again, I hear from the inside guys, there's a war going on right now over in the Pentagon. Okay. Did you notice sometime in the last week and a half or so, have you noticed that it's like a door slammed shut? There's no UFO stories in the papers right now.
I noticed that. I'm glad you brought that up. It's who's controlling that narrative? Because there was a stretch. I mean, obviously,
understand who owns it. 4 years ago, 600 corporations owned all of the media in this country. It's even less now.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's not even, it's in Facebook and all of the platforms that we can access right now too. Everything is being censored and shut down.
Choose your words so we don't get bounced.
I didn't say the specifics, but when you say that I'm inciting violence on my show and take it down, there's something wrong, because we don't talk about violence. We talk about love.
Peace and love and here.
Butterflies.
And the red lips and all that.
We talk about angels. We don't talk about demons, just angels.
Kids and grandkids.
Everything has gone a little haywire. I think you're right. So what do you feel is going on?
Well, let me add this. Leading up to the UAP report, June 26th, national media, the big boys, Fox, CNN, right. MSN, almost every night there was a interview with the Elizonos and Mellons and all these people. The report comes out, for the most part,
excuse me,
us, we got what we thought we were going to get. They're not going to give. It was a 9-page report, which only 3 or 4 pages was really information.
But the classified version actually given to Congress was about 75 pages,
which still isn't a whole lot.
Well, it's got to be an executive briefing. It's sifted it down.
Gotcha.
My executive briefing in my letter to both Rubio and to Maloney was 2 sentences. Okay. It was a very tight letter. No rambling. It was a tight letter, and Linda went over it 3 times. Okay, very tight Washington ease. Okay, but so what has happened? It's like, well, okay, 2 things. One, to some degree, that report was disappointing to everybody. Of course, everybody in the UFO community wanted to drink from the fire hose of knowledge. I want to know it all. And I told my fans, I put out about a 400-word statement the day before it came out, and I said, this is what I expect, and it was just about what we got, right. Not much of anything and very high level, but there's more. There's something you have to know about DC. If you have a deadline, you have to deliver something on that deadline. It may not be exactly what the contract asks for or the law asks for. You deliver something with a promise more is coming.
Right.
Because they couldn't come there and say, we need an extension. So they came there and they said, here's what we got right now. We'll be back with more.
Albeit on a Friday late afternoon.
Funny how that works. Oh, yeah. That was
media shutting down for the
DC spin. Do it on a Friday before a holiday weekend, for God's sake. Yeah. So that's how it went down. That's why we sort of took this approach of the personal approach to reach out to them and say, if you really want to get the big picture, you need to talk to some people who have been studying it. All of us who have been out there who nobody wants to talk to, the people Dr. Conning called the true believers. I'm not a true believer. I'm a knower.
Right.
Okay. And that's what I hate to explain to a lot of people. I hate that term applied to us as enthusiasts. I hate that term true believers. It's not that we believe in this stuff. Those of us, if you've seen one, your reality has been changed. My Lama's taught it. When you see something like that, it's expanded your view of reality a little bit. And you've just become a little bit more enlightened. And that's the deal. And, I actually believe, and this is looking like it back at Whitley Strieber's kind of stuff. They've been touching our culture for a long time, whether they've been doing it in our dreams and psychics or actually taking them on a ship or something, right? That pulling their conscious out of their bedroom or something, whatever they do. But not everybody's been taken aboard a ship, but a lot of people have been touched. And Dr. Mack said millions and millions. People asked me recently, well, how many millions do you think? I said, do you really want to know? Okay. How about 42 to 45 million? That's at 16% the Gallup poll said they had seen a UFO. If they've seen one, they've been touched because a lot of people can't see them when they look right at it.
That's fair. And you know what we said? I'm glad you brought that up because I have to still say I'm an enthusiast because I don't think I've ever truly seen or experienced that. Tiffany, on the other hand,
will change your world. Yeah, it'll rock your world because everything after that is you constantly go back to it. You constantly try to figure out how to explain it to your friends, your family, yourself, even. It's because you almost don't want to be the only one that's witnessed, or you don't want to be the only one. You always want somebody who you can relate to and share with. And for a long time, we weren't able to do that.
Yeah.
But now in the past 10, 15 years, we are being able to share our stories openly. It is becoming a more commonplace topic. We are being exposed to it through all avenues of media, and it's not so taboo. Right. And Cheryl, I thank you for helping to get us to that point. I think that you have helped us get us to this point.
Very much so.
And
can I interject a point on that thing? There were people I would interview. Now, I got a lot of my stories. Most UFO stories, you go into Newfork or something like that and read their stuff. You're lucky if you get a sentence. People think that these UFO reports got all this data in it. You're lucky to get a sentence. 3.5% of people who filed a report didn't even tell you what city they were in. Okay. 7% didn't tell you other stuff you needed to know. Okay. But some people would actually take the time and actually write some kind of an essay, a well-worded essay. And as a reporter, what I enjoyed reading was the fact that people say, my wife and I were laying on the hood of our car looking at the Milky Way galaxy, a gazillion stars kind of night kind of thing. We never really gave any stock to this UFO stuff until we saw we never believed that stuff was real. And I read more stories like that than you could shake a stick at. The other thing, I would get invited to come meet somebody at the coffee shop or something like that and wanted to tell me their UFO story. I didn't do a lot of those because there are crazy people out there. And so I went to a few. Some people would sit there and just plain face tell me what was going on, and I didn't believe them. The ones that I believed, you could see the sweat starting to bead out on their face. You could see that a degree of tenseness come up in their eyes. It's like when I interviewed combat veterans, they were suddenly there again. Okay. Yeah. The same thing with the UFO sighting. They are suddenly experiencing it again. And it's and they're sharing with me the fact that their reality got changed.
Right.
Did you happen to notice whether they seemed like they have told their story before, or did it seem like they were just enduring it all over again? Was there trauma in a lot of them?
I sat there and watched them fumbling. I watched two different people spill their cup of coffee. Okay. You could tell they were visibly upset. Some of them had made some degree of peace with it. Now, the ones that were experiencers, that was a little bit more difficult. But for me, how that happened, I had always believed all the stuff I saw on the upper cable channel. Oh, I got probed. Oh, it was terrible. All right. I was the second time I was going to the International UFO Congress down in Tempe, down in Arizona. And they had this little experiencers meeting at 7:00 in the morning. And for listeners, things get going at the convention about 9:00 with all the big presentations. But this was like a little Alcoholics Anonymous meeting at 7:00 in the morning. Okay. And it would end about 8:30.
Yeah.
So, but I had a psychologist that was acting as a moderator. So this second or third year I went there, I went to her and I said, look, I need to learn. I'll leave my press credentials upstairs. I want to come and learn. I won't write about your people. I might write about the experience, but I won't out anybody.
Right.
And she says, fine. In fact, that was an understanding my editor and I had. We would not say who, even if we knew. If you ever saw an article by me that said Bob and Ted were on the hood of his 57 Chevy, it wasn't a 57 Chevy and it wasn't Bob and Ted or Bob and Susie. Okay. All right. I get in there. Linda and I went into this thing. I half expected to meet 25 or 30 people crying in their coffee. They got probed. I get in there. This meeting's got there's about 150, 175 people in there, and it's got all the energy of a tent revival. Those folks are great. And they told us to take care of our planet too, and 180 degrees for me, baby. I said, wow, this is interesting. And every good experiencers meeting I've been to since that had similar energy, similar exuberance of one being able to share, two being able to share I've got someone to share a common experience with. Was this tone? So it's pretty
It's
fabulous.
therapy.
Yeah, in a way it's therapy. Now, a couple of years ago, about 3 years ago, I have a therapist because I'm disowned from my family, and sometimes you got to talk to somebody about the stresses of being alone from your family. And I told him all this. And I said, there's a lot of people that would like to be able to talk to somebody like you, a social worker, but they can't find anybody doesn't slap a label on them like they're really wacky. And this is a real thing. And so jointly, we wrote a letter to the New York State Social Worker Society. Crickets. A couple of months later, I wrote another very well thought out letter. Crickets. Did a third letter. Still crickets. And we offered to come and give them a free presentation to bring them up to speed about the fact that there's this untreated PTSD thing going on. Okay. And crickets. So personally, I'm hoping some of this, Steve Bassett called me from England a couple of years ago. He took a break from things, called me up and he says, Cheryl, is there any way you and Linda can do a book like your book, the White Book, but do it for experiencers? I said, I can't find a database. Okay. If I can find a database, maybe. But so, we even thought about reaching out to Whitley Stieber because his wife got 20,000 letters from people. And I might have been able to loosely, no names, but compiled a database.
I would say that a lot of the people who have put themselves out there have had probably thousands of emails from people describing their experiences.
Yeah, I would agree. Susan Hansen in New Zealand. And I had a long conversation about this. She's a prominent one down there. Last year, I had the opportunity. I was for a very short time, I was part of a Hollywood think tank. And for people who had went to film school, went to media writing school, so to speak. And I pitched the idea of a television series as a 1-hour drama, not like People of Earth, that was a comedy,
which I loved.
Yeah, it was fun for us to watch. But
if you have had any of these experiences, and then you have friends outside of the community who have judged you for that, you can find humor in it, because you know what? If you can't laugh, then you're going to crack. Okay.
I agree with you 100%. The problem was that presented, it was good for us, but it didn't help anybody else.
No, it didn't. You're right. It didn't help because they all seemed whack. But
I wrote a 1-hour dramatic pilot and outlined for an entire 15 episode series. Okay. About experiencers. I got a shrink in there. I got an investigator in there. I got a media person in there, and I patterned it after some people I knew, but I made sure it was so far isolated from who they were. I just took their situations. There's enough situations that are so very similar. And I wrote this, and the Hollywood producer that read the thing tried to write it off and said, well, we had that People of Earth thing, I don't think people are going to be interested in this. And I said, it's a hot topic. Trust me, I'm a columnist. My column went through the roof. There's hunger for this. No. And then the executive producer came to me and say, nah. Okay, fine. But I'll send you the PDF of the script. It's actually a good read from what everybody's told me. So.
Have you ever run that by anybody like Christopher Garetano, who is into this and Bigfoot and horror?
I don't know who that is.
He's the guy that wrote Montauk Chronicle. We will definitely send you some info.
Hook me up.
Yeah. I think that sounds fantastic, and I think that people would love it. Did you know that Steven Spielberg made a film called Taken? It was back around 2002 or 4, maybe
early 2000.
That 2001, 2004 timeframe.
Something around then. I just started watching it again because it's pretty incredible.
What's it on? like one of the Prime?
Well, one of the things they do good
No, I
about
had
that
to
is
buy it from I had to buy it from Amazon. It's
they,
like 7 discs.
yeah, it is 7. It's like 7 discs.
Mm-hmm.
The thing they did good with that thing was this multi-generational thing.
Yes, which I love because that's happened with us.
I've interviewed 2 families. I used to sometimes, as a reporter, get invited to a backyard barbecue. I didn't know if it was a lynching party, so I would take a security guard from our paper, and I'd go over there, and real quick we find out that it's a family reunion. I got a burger and a beer in my hand in about 2 minutes, and okay, so we're good. And I had the matriarch of one of them set me down. Usually, I would get to one of these things and they say, "Hey, we want you to meet our Uncle Ralph. He saw Foo Fighters from his B-17, in the war, and that kind of thing." Or Aunt Susie, had this abduction experience or something. But I had this one family set me down, and the matriarch sat there and started flipping me through a family album, and it started with tintypes. Okay. And she was able to document to me that the family had been touched for at least 4 generations, possibly 5.
Well, that makes sense. Yeah, I can relate to that. My mom, some of the women in her family, myself, and my daughter have all had experiences, and we're continuing to go through, all of this together. And it took a long time to even get those stories out. It took me getting on, as a show host talking about UFOs to even have some of their stories come out. It was sort of strange that we just kept it quiet for so long and sort of bottled it up and kept it in. And now I get to hear all these good stories. And I'm like, why did I not know that? They always come up with new ones. So I believe that they are, in some cases, following the lineage of these people. There's a reason why. Maybe. What do you think the reason why they would have intergenerational?
I've come to that conclusion that they're tracking certain family lines. That's probably why some people don't see these things. They're tracking certain family lines. Clairvoyance runs strong in our family. And so there's some suspicion there as well.
Well, you have a very strong telepathic mind then in general, maybe.
Perhaps, but the bottom line is that they seem to be tracking certain families. And I talked to a geneticist about that, and I said, why would someone track over multi-generations? So, wow, what a sample, because you could make some change. If you had the ability to, he says, imagine being able to fly through time. And I said, okay, I can do that, and you make some change in some genetic back there, and you can follow that family line for X number of generations and see how it progresses.
It's all about the DNA, baby.
Isn't it though? Isn't it? And them if you read Whitley Strieber's books, they have done their best to try and make us better.
I buy that.
Okay.
Definitely.
There's a lot of effort there to make us better and to expand our reality. And that's what it takes to stop having this very, very finite view of the universe. I tell my I do blessings on things, and I say, we offer this blessing for all beings everywhere, every when.
There you go. I like that,
because it transcends everything. We're all made of the same stuff. And if you want to go the technology we're talking about, hey, UFOs, parapsychology, Bigfoot, cryptos, all of this stuff is part of the same thing. We're all made of the same stuff.
I'm with you. Let me go back to the UAP report.
Yep.
One of the things, again, just as an enthusiast, what we got is what I expected. But one of the narratives that help me understand, I get it that it regardless of what anybody says, June 26, 2021 is a big freaking deal. It's a real report that Congress, the big boys, asked for, got. It's a step. Why? When will the experiencer narrative come into play? Yeah, because they were talking sightings. It was only from 2004 till now, which Tiffany, I think you alluded, the whole 144, whatever that number was. But the other missing component in this is people who have experienced
relating in a personal way. And like Cheryl said, there may be on the low number, maybe 40 million across the earth that have had these experiences that we can talk about now.
Make that number bigger, because that 16% that we measured adult population.
Oh, okay.
Is based on a Fox Pictures poll and based on a Gallup poll. Fox Pictures in 2017 and Gallup in 2019 both came up with a number that said we have seen a UFO, and it was about 16% and change. Okay. Mm-hmm. And that back against an adult population that in the United States, that would be about 42 million people. It also helped us determine that 1 in about 250 people reports what they see. So if I've got 167,000 sightings, times that by 250.
You're making me do math.
That's how many are out there. Millions.
Yeah, I'm not going to do math today, but I do agree. I think that, when I first started this journey, I had a sighting. That's what got me into this whole world. I had a sighting in, and I can never remember. I could probably look it up at some point. It's probably in here in your book. And it was in Destin, Florida, and it was a craft that came directly down, and it went into the water, and I saw this light spread and then go back into nothingness. And I remember that night thinking everybody had to have seen this. This was the brightest light I've ever seen in my entire life. It was right off the water, and we were right on the beach. I'm like, there's so many people.
It'll be on the news everywhere too.
Yeah. And of course it wasn't. And I'm like, what the hell? What is wrong with you people? People don't want to know about what that was. This was it wasn't like a flare. It wasn't
what will people
fireworks?
say?
It wasn't a bomb.
What will people say? We can't tell anybody. They'll think we're kooks and crackpots.
But at the same time too, we alluded.
It took me to MUFON though. So from that point, that's where I started looking. And then I got a MUFON investigator call. And then I was on KGRA like 2 weeks later. It was a fast process because I guess because I had radio in my history and worked for the DOD as a contract. There was a lot of pieces to the puzzle that came together for me. And it has brought me to a better realization that there are so many people who have actually seen these, and it's not going to stop. There's people are looking up, people are paying attention. And when you have people that are staying home for a year and don't have to get up at 7 o'clock to go fight traffic, they are able to go out, witness the stars, and start realizing their star charts, star apps.
Did you see our write-up in there about it in the book about that?
So people are looking.
Well,
people are excited.
Let me pump the brakes on that, Tiff. That night you saw that, did anybody else in your family witness that with you?
I was alone on the patio.
I'm going somewhere with this. Mm-hmm. We talked about it just a moment ago.
It was like 10.
Okay,
10 o'clock.
That's fair. But I've said this on numerous shows, and I'll say it again. If I'm sitting there with you on that balcony, looking up,
you would have seen that.
You think? Maybe not. I personally don't think I'm wired the way you are. You see, you feel.
I can talk to this.
I really would like to believe it, but we've discussed this before. Tell us what your thoughts are, Cheryl.
There's psychology here.
Yeah. Okay.
There's at least I'd heard this from someone else once, and then I had a story where 10 people were up camping in the Adirondacks here in New York. Okay, now were they camping around some place that's all built up? No, we're talking about a place. Here's a lake out in the middle of the Adirondacks, and there's no cottages. It's just a lake out there. The kind of places only hunters go, you know,
or Bigfoot.
Or Bigfoot, yeah. So this thing comes down, 10 people, 5 of them could see it for what it was, a technical craft of some sort.
Right.
2 more of them, or 3 more of them, could see it, but it was abstract, like a cartoon. Okay. And the other remainders were looking straight at it and couldn't see it. Okay. Now there's some psychology calling an unexpected syndrome, you know, where they've had guys in gorilla suits run out across the court in the middle of a basketball game and nobody saw it. Okay. It's a well-documented psychological thing. I wrote 2 stories on it. Okay. So here's the deal. Some people, remember, we see with our eyes, we process with our brain. And if we don't have the aptitude to process that, our brain just doesn't see it. And you talk to any cop, you know, you
I've
get
heard that,
20 stories at a crime scene, you know.
They put the whammy on me. I'd be, again, I really think that I'm not meant to experience things the way you are, Tiffany.
Well, you know, we always talk about the pillow talk that Brent and I have when we're in, you know, trying to go to bed, right? You know, we talk about Bigfoot, we talk about aliens, we talk about him flying 1,000,000 miles and always being in the air and looking for UFOs like he's seen and videotaped. And the thing that bothers me the most is that while we are having, like, I have experiences where I wake up, there's somebody in the room, a portal opens, an entity's there, whatever the case may be. And I tap him on the shoulder and I tell him, he's like, okay, so what's going on? And I will explain who's here, how do they look, how tall they are, what are they wearing? Are they trying to are they trying to talk to us? What are the communications? I am trying to describe the entire situation. And he can't see it. And I can see them like a person right here. And I can explain them to them, or explain what their situation is. And it's not like I'm frozen. This is not some form of sleep paralysis. It may be a real thing, but that's total BS compared to what's going on.
It's not uncommon for the spouse to have a sense, I'm not supposed to get up. I do really have to go to the bathroom, but they don't want me to get up.
Well, we discuss every time we have this, we discuss it in real time. Okay. And the thing is, there has been a few times where afterwards, there has, in one situation, was a laser beam shot straight on his person because he got up, and I said, "Don't get up." And it was like, I knew something bad would happen if he got up. It's like, don't give up. And he's wanting to go fight. He's wanting to kick its ass, you know, because this is a big dude. And he was very threatening. My husband's 6'4.5". He was going to whoop his ass. And I said, don't do it. Do not get up. Well, he gets up and they shoot some kind of beam onto him. Well, he didn't feel it then. But I said, lay down now. He got back in bed. I said, they're leaving, they're gone. And so he woke up an hour later with his face and neck on fire, like he had been burned by the sun, like he had baked in the sun for 15 hours and it was just full blast. And then he started feeling like he's having a heart attack. His left arm is numb. His body is tingling. He is in full arrest. I mean, he's having a problem. He's like, I think you need to take me to the hospital. I need to get out of here. I need to go to the hospital. And I said, just go take a baby aspirin. What are you going to tell them? That the aliens gave you a zap and they put the whammy on you? You know, and he really thought he was having a heart attack. It's like, go take a baby aspirin. They're not going to kill you tonight.
Are you saying his PPO wouldn't cover that?
Probably not alien whammies. No. But he didn't see it, but he had the reaction, and it was terrifying that night because of how intense his reaction was to what happened.
Remember you were talking about leisure time?
Mm-hmm.
In our book, we talk about when there's 5 drivers we discovered and 5 influencers to sightings. Okay. Some of this has to do with as much about human activity as much as those guys. Okay. Population is a driver. A lot of people knee jerk and say that's the only thing. It isn't. Population, temperate weather, leisure time, hours of darkness, and observer access to broadband are the 5 drivers. Okay. We've been able to correlate access to broadband to levels of sightings. Okay. Then the influencers are proximity to large bodies of water. That one's been kind of known by people. Proximity to toxic ecosystems, proximity to geological fault lines. Now, the toxic ecosystems comes down to they're interested in our dead coal fields, dead gas fields, dead oil fields, strip mines, polluted lakes, polluted rivers, severely polluted rivers, polluted lakes, that type of thing. Geological fault lines, high visibility media reports. Now, some people say, okay, if there's a press report about UFOs, suddenly there's a burst in UFO sighting reports. That might be part of the reason they're not reporting stuff right now, because there has been a large report. But is it about what just happened today? No, it's usually people say, well, now that I know where I saw that special on TV about NUFORC or about MUFON, now I know where to report that thing I saw 2 years ago or 2 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I found happened myself. And then there's this thing, what we don't have quantifiable data on it yet, but we've seen a trend, what we call the generational effect. The generational effect. Los Angeles County is the #1 county in the country for UFO sightings. Okay. There's about 3,200 counties in the United States, and 3,080 of them had reports of UFOs. Los Angeles County, not the city, Los Angeles County has the most. In fact, they have more than 39 individual states.
Oh,
Maricopa County, which is the Phoenix area, is the #2 county. Okay. Now, both of them have had something that what we would call the generational effect. Los Angeles County, hey, wow, Grandpa, well, one, they've had UFO sightings up and down those canyons since the 1880s. I've seen newspaper headlines like that. Okay.
Where is that at? Los Angeles County. Exactly.
Southern California.
Okay.
Okay. It's where Los Angeles is. Okay. But it's a much larger square mile area. Gotcha. I mean, the city is very small as compared to the county.
Got it. Yeah.
Okay. It's on the 37th parallel, if that helps.
Not really.
No, okay. Word for it.
The 37th latitude is not the UFO superhighway as it has been many hooped and everything. There's 10 other latitudes that have far more sightings than the 37th. Okay. But the deal is generational effect. Grandpa told us these really great stories about the Battle of LA. He was there, and it gets handed down. If I look up, maybe I'll see something. Same thing with Maricopa County. Mom and Dad saw and Grandpa saw the Phoenix lights. Maybe if I look up regularly, I'll see something. And that's what it seems to be.
I like that. And that makes sense.
We've now, indirectly.
Can I go back to one last thought? Hold the thought for a moment. Yeah, remember we were talking about leisure time.
Yeah.
Okay. At the beginning of 2020, I got a phone call. This is late February. I got a call from George Knapp telling me his phone's ringing off the hook. Now, I had taken 2019 off because I knew the UFOs would be back about 2019 or 2020 because there's a 7 to 8 year cycle. It goes up and down like a little dragon crawling across the lawn. So I did this. I said, okay, I'll take a quick look. So I took a quick look at the the MUFON monthly data for 2020 at that time. January and February were already posted. And I pulled them into one of the spreadsheets I had, and it was the best year since 2012, 2014 timeframe. So I told George, wow, this is cool. Maybe they are back. But I had predicted it because I have a model that said that they would be back. Okay. And as every month plotted along, I dumped the numbers into the model, and we suspected the numbers were going to finish out. The whole database were going to come in around 168,000 is what we estimated with our model. And we came up to 167,000, which is within 0.02. It's really great. But the bottom line was this. A lot of fans were calling me up that had heard me talking on Coast to Coast with George Knapp about leisure time being a driver. They said, well, we're going into lockdown. This will be a perfect laboratory for measuring that. And we did it in the book. We printed a chart there. We showed what March and April in 2020 looked like. It went through the roof because people had the time couldn't go anyplace. What did we do? We sat around and watched streaming TV, ate too much, and sat out on our decks or in the backyard and
watch podcasts.
Exactly. But people also saw stuff.
And people saw stuff. Except for me. I couldn't. I'm not.
Maybe we need to get you some special goggles.
I have lost that 20 pounds I gained.
Well,
congratulations. See,
so we have a
Saturday night, I was freaking hoping I'd walk, see this bright light coming out of your bedroom. And as I got closer, you were in a freaking caught between Earth and some portal.
Brent let you get near my bedroom? That's not like him. Here's a question that we have from Ron.
Sure.
While writing this current book, did you or Linda have any so-called downloads for the stats?
No. The data that we got from MUFON and NUFORC.
Okay. All right.
Since the first book, I've had a good relationship with MUFON. Was able to get a data dump from them. Something special we did do when we wrote the first book. People said, "Well, wait a minute, you did 2001 to 2015. Why didn't you go back 40 years?"
Well, it's a large request.
Also the perception was that 40 years ago was the bigger deal, and actually, so this time I asked them
more than 40 years, but anyway,
yeah.
Well, I asked them for the 2019, 2020 data for beginning of 2021. And then I said, I need a favor. I don't want the data as much as I want the magnitudes. I want only the dates from 1960 to 2000. I was just measuring magnitude. Okay. The average sighting per year was between about 150 to maybe 300. Okay. And it went, again, we were able to prove that theory that it goes up and down, up and down, up and down about every 6 to 7 years. Okay. 6 to 8 years, something like that. And so the whole total between both databases, and it was very difficult to do because their databases are very different. And you have to do some gyrations in order to get the data to work together with itself. And so from 1960 to 2000, the combined databases of MUFON and NUFORC only totaled 15,150 sightings. 15,150 sightings. I got that much in 2012 in 1 year.
It seemed awful low.
Well, it seems awfully low, but remember what was driving this? People had difficulty reporting this stuff. Back in the day, before 68, you used to be able to get newspaper clippings and send it into somebody, like APRO or something like that.
No internet.
Okay. 1968 came along. Dr. Condon told everybody, there's nothing to be learned by studying these things. So newspapers stopped printing these stories for the most part, unless something really sensational happened. Even then, they frequently wouldn't do it. Look at all the stuff that happened in the 70s and 80s down in the Hudson Valley, and there were very few newspaper stories about it.
Right.
Okay. So that's the deal. So suddenly we get into around the late 80s. People start being able to get on America Online, CompuServe, a few things like this. We start seeing more per year. Okay. Get into the early 90s. People are on dial-up, and some people have broadband, and we're seeing it coming up. So by 2000, it was up to maybe 600 sightings for the year, which is a big deal. But 2001, by that time, we had gotten broadband in major metropolitan areas and their suburbs, and we're up to 4,500 in 2001, and it's ramping up from there for the next 5 years. Okay, that was what was going on, and I remember I'm a retired IT person, so I was able to correlate this with the distribution of broadband technology at that time.
We have a few photographs or slides that you had sent to me. And these are, Kevin, I just added one more. If you can pull that one, I'll start out with the one of the U.S. So let's look at this, Cheryl, and you can explain what we're looking at.
Okay, this is a map of the United States. This is a map by zip codes. Every place that is blue is a zip code that reported a UFO sighting.
My goodness.
Or many UFO sightings. It doesn't measure the volume of it, but it just indicates that zip code had a report.
Awesome.
Now, what the thing is 41,600 zip codes and 18,623 reported UFO sightings.
My goodness. Okay.
And we only learned how to do that about 2 weeks ago. So
that's awesome. What is this one?
This one here is a report by counties. There are about 3,200 counties and county-like entities. You know, some of them are boroughs, some of them are city states kind of thing. Like in Virginia, you got a lot of city states down there, or large incorporated areas like Virginia Beach. It's the city and the county of Virginia Beach. But there's about 3,200 counties, 3,081 counties reported UFO sightings, as you can see. Now, if you look down above Florida there, see a whole bunch of holes right there. Most of those are in Georgia, and they're seriously rural areas that do not have broadband.
Gotcha.
And the same thing over here. I get over here towards the Mississippi a little bit there. You see the Mississippi there. You've got Louisiana. You've got Mississippi. You've got Arkansas and things like this. Some of those states are, again, very rural, and they lack for rural broadband. And I hope this infrastructure bill gets passed with this rural broadband thing, because it would be a great boon to what we do.
All right. And here's one of Texas that got added.
Okay.
So tell us about this one.
Well, again, this one's by zip code. The blue areas are the zip codes that had UFO sightings. There are 256 counties in Texas, and some of them are not much more than a lot of sagebrush. Okay. And they might have a general store, and that's also the county seat. You know, that kind of thing. Yeah. There's some places that are really, really, really rural. So, but some of these zip codes are really big because of the fact that there's so few people that live there. You see out there in West Texas, it's like that.
Okay. The next one.
Go ahead.
The next one that we have is the state that Kevin and I are in. It's not the state of insanity. It's the state of Kentucky.
Yep. Same thing. The zip codes that don't have them are probably rather rural areas. And if you plotted it out to probably the actual city area, major metropolitan areas, you'd probably see a more density. They're probably out there to the west there. You see that whole, all the zip codes there seem to be blotted out. So that's what this is. And we've done every single state in the union. We're plotting it. We're in the process right now of plotting every one of them by counties. I have to fix some data. The mapping programs that want the data, they won't use the county name. You have to install something called an FIPS code. It's the federal government code. Every single county and county-like entity has a FIPS code or FIPS code. So we're modifying a copy of the database with FIPS codes, and it's tedious because I can only do about maybe 2,000 lines a day because you got to put them in there manually.
Oh, goodness. Okay, so I wanted to look at your book for the Kentucky. It's UFO rank 26 out of 51, sort of middle of the road.
Yep.
But the county that Kevin and I...
Curious, why 51?
I don't know. Out of 51 states.
Well, okay. When I say 51, we count DC.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
So
now, what's cool with Kentucky is you've had about 2,200 in the last 20 years, averaging. Now this is an average, about 110 a year, about 9 a month, and about 2 a week.
Okay. That's pretty good.
Yeah, and at number 26, you're right there in the middle. So that's still pretty serious. You're in the top 30. So that's cool.
So all that white in Kentucky, Tiffany, is hijacked by Bigfoot.
Yes. So, but the first line of this says Jefferson County had 361 sightings, and it was ranked number 1, and that's where Kevin and I live. So, that's inspirational. So we have a lot of sightings.
Ground zero in your county.
Now it is the biggest county in the state.
Well.
Now people ask me all the time: is it because it's a big population, or is it because there are just more UFOs to see? And I've long held that human beings are cute to watch. I think half these guys are anthropologists and they're just studying us. So that's my personal view.
Well, we are entertaining.
Oh yeah, there you go.
I mean,
Tiffany, you've officially heard it. You are cute to watch.
Yeah. Well, I hope that someday I'm out to more.
Let me switch gears real quick because
go ahead.
2 of my go-to UFO stories, incidents that I do not think get as much notoriety as they should is the Battle of Los Angeles. And you had freaking military involved in that incident. You can, whatever the argument is, there is that infamous image, and and our no offense to you military people, it really says something about your military if you blast 1,400 rounds up at a balloon and can't take it down. Okay, I'm not really having faith in the military in 1942.
Maybe they just had really bad shots that night.
They were off night. Okay, maybe. Night. It's like, okay, Michael Jordan missed, had an off night too. When
4 years before Orson Welles scared the snot out of the country.
That's
why it got quietly put down as war nerves.
That's fair. Okay, I'm feeling there. All right, I'm with you there. I can buy that. But people died from that shrapnel, all that shit happened.
Everything, what goes up must come down eventually.
That's a good point. The other one, Cheryl, and this one, for the most part, is kind of closer in time to us, is the Phoenix Lights. I mean, this is something a little different where,
the whole town saw it.
And this thing was supposedly like you had people like, I didn't realize this until not too long ago. Tiffany, maybe it was the show we did where Kurt Russell was a pilot, is a pilot, and was one of the people who later acknowledged seeing, this thing.
But he also forgot about it for a long time. He was just like, "Oh yeah, I saw that."
No, I don't know if he forgot. I think he was holding status in Hollywood by not
stigma.
Yeah, that's where I'm going. So those 2 events, and maybe let's 1942. That's a good point.
Stigma also stopped the defense intelligence agencies, and there's a whole bunch of little defense intelligence agencies, had any of those UFOs had anything that suggested Russian markings or Chinese markings, they would have been all over it in 2004 with the Nimitz and all this stuff.
There you go.
But because it had an overtone of UFOs, nobody wanted to touch it. And I heard that on Fox by former Secretary. He had Mellon's job, a guy by the name of Radcliffe.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah.
And nobody wanted to touch it. So eventually Navy intelligence stepped up and took ownership of it. And that's why Navy intelligence has been involved with this UAP task force.
Interesting. Very interesting.
But they keep acting like these things are flying circles around our best aircraft, and of course the skeptics are sitting there throwing the pilots under the bus, throwing the radar operators under the bus, throwing trillions of dollars of technology under the bus. But I'll tell you something, the guys that were in the Princeton, the radar ship, the specialized radar ship
on the east
okay,
side.
Okay, they had their reality change that day. They were all rattled. And I've talked about a half a dozen of them at the Laughlin conference 2 years ago, in 2019. And some of those guys told me they came back, and of course they were sworn to secrecy. They couldn't even tell their spouses and things like this. So they've got their reality changed. They're acting different, they're acting squirrely. In some cases, the wife would say, "Who is she?" This was
it might have been easier to say it was a mistress than UFOs, honestly.
Yeah. It was, it affected them very badly. Again, they couldn't even go and talk to somebody. Okay. So this had to be addressed, and it's been happening so much. Finally, they had to kind of pay attention to it. But they're acting like this is the first time these things have flown circles around our aircraft. They've been doing that for 70 years, for God's sakes.
Going back to the Tic Tac, we know it was 2004. We know Commander
I think
Fravor.
the Tic Tac was probably designated as a square or rectangle. What we count in our database now as a square or rectangle.
Okay, but I'm dumbfounded by the narrative that with people who you got Fravor, you got his people pilots who witnessed this. What are you going to call it? Ticket, whatever you want to call it, the radar, whatever. This is 2004, and he's since 2007. Once the story broke in December 2017, he's been on podcasts and shows and talked ad nauseum about seeing this. And you've got a lot of people who want to say that this object is our technology. If I would just think that someone at Fravor's, now granted, I don't know, you can help me the pecking order of where he is versus the higher up. In 2004, he might not have had a clue on what that was. And if it was our technology, I would just think that somebody
he didn't have a need to know.
He didn't. Do you think? Okay, and maybe now he still doesn't have
further. Lou Alessandro and I talked about that, and I said, if these things are flying by these aircraft, these top line aircraft, as close as they've been described, doesn't that violate all the safety protocols we have? He says, yeah, we'd like to know too. Right. Because if it is something of ours, they're violating every safety rule we've got in the book.
Right.
And I got that from Lou.
Yeah. I just would think that between 2004 and now that somebody might give Fravor, some of those guys, a heads up, like, you might want to stop going on these shows because that's our technology, that kind of thing. Yeah, I don't know, or maybe this is part of the whole narrative. I mean, if we're getting, really faked out. I mean, if the government is really pulling some kind of a thing over us, I don't know. With like Fravor, I don't think he would be part of that agenda. I mean,
question you should be asking is why now? Why then?
Yeah.
Okay. We've been on the fringe of a tipping point with our ecology now for 20 years. Okay. And now all of a sudden these guys start showing up in droves. Maybe they're now one of two things. I've heard this said this way. Maybe they have made contact with the government. And this is the only way it's being shared with us, or they have not made contact with the government, and this is the way they're trying to get their bloody attention short of landing on a White House lawn.
For the record, you're saying from people from out of this world, outside of this world, they okay,
off-worlders, yes, or off-dimensioners, whatever you want to call them, off-worlders. But the bottom line is that maybe they're making a big deal of saying, "You tell your people, or we will." Because look what our weather's like right now.
It's insane.
We're being drowned up here right now. We are having storms. This is like a monsoon season up here right now.
What was it, Germany or somebody? What was it?
Yeah.
Germany's had
Belgium.
The worst floods in a century. Okay. And we're in a monsoon season up here because of two weather masses come together and put all the moisture over this area of the East Coast. And I think you guys are getting some of that.
We live in a rainforest these days. I mean,
so
it's sort of crazy.
And they told us a number of years ago, we're very close to a tipping point, and we're seeing it. So either they're here to kind of either help us and get us to wake up on this stuff, or they're here to with the popcorn and going to watch us fry our planet.
The popcorn. I'm a popcorn guy. Tiffany, I want to let me bring up something real quick, and we're kind of rounding third and heading for home on the show.
Yep.
We did a show not too long ago, Tiffany, where one of our guests / friend brought up this narrative, and I have to admit, I thought it was a little bit fantastic, but I love her, respect her, and kept an open mind. For the record, Cheryl, as an enthusiast, not every freaking light in the sky and every bump in the night is paranormal. You know, I don't buy into all of it.
But I think anybody with the brain can rationalize that. You know, we do have a function that says that's spooky, but it's not paranormal. I can come up with a legitimate reason why that happened. But then again, we do have experiences that are unexplainable. So Kevin, go on with your
you know, she mentioned she's an experiencer. She is someone who hybridization program. I mean, she's military. It's hard when I listen to her stories, listen to her takes. It's very hard to dismiss. They're fantastic. They're, for me, a little over the top, but I believe that she believes. I'm not gonna ever. I don't doubt her. They're incredible. But one thing she mentioned, Tiffany, is we're on the cusp of getting contact. You know, they're gonna reach out to us. They're gonna let their presence be known. Now, hear me out, Cheryl. When we talked on that show, Tiffany, she mentioned the Olympics is coming up in Tokyo, right? Tokyo, yeah. They're not. The public is not allowed, or you know, because of COVID, is not going to be part of it. She had mentioned that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Tiffany, this is a stage where something could be mentioned, could be introduced, could be told at that time. Do you remember that conversation?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Can you add to that? Just so Cheryl can get
No, I just think that she just proposed that's her belief, that there's going to be something coming and it's coming soon. And that would be a perfect time to have it
Cheryl,
happen.
I've asked Tiffany as an experiencer, and I'll ask you too. Do your spider senses sense something imminent? She's for the audio. She's shaking her head. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how soon, but some of this stuff has been
making. Tell us, or you won't tell us.
I don't know.
Okay.
But it's been going on for about 2 years. Wouldn't you agree that your spidey senses have been super psyched and you're like, something's getting ready to happen. It's coming. It's coming. It's coming. And it's extra, not just crap going on within the States or within our
just
normal daily life.
Generating this book started a year ago, August. Okay. Last August, we realized that 14% of the cities were spelled wrong. And if we were going to be able to drill down to and produce those state books we want to produce, so we would have the largest compilation of UFO stuff ever published in human history, we would have to correct the spelling on some 20 to 50,000 records. Okay. And so we realized this back in the summer of 2020. So I started going to work every day like I did when I was at Lockheed. Remember, I'm retired.
Mm-hmm.
I got up every day, had a couple cups of coffee, and I sat down with the database and with a golden mail list, started correcting the cities' spellings and their counties. If we had them wrong, I fixed that. I added latitude, longitude, and zip code while I was at it. Okay, that's why we're able to do some of the stuff we're doing. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how I got through 6 months of doing that without going off my deep end. Mm-hmm. I really don't know how I got through it all. But I was done by the first week, literally done 650 hours later, the first week of January. And then we started writing the book, or putting the book together. Right. So it's like, I hate to say it this way, but it's like I've had help. Okay. And I'm not the only one that's in our business that says they've been having help. Mm. And this has been over the last 2 years, maybe 2.5, 3 years.
Gotcha.
So I think that something
is
right.
Something is afoot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I've said this, again, I'm an enthusiast. I love the conversation. I love this narrative. I love Cheryl talking to you tonight, Tiffany doing our thing every week and hanging out with our friends and stuff, but I do know when to pump the freaking brakes. When someone tells a story that to me is a little too freaking over the top.
Woo meter goes all the way over.
It does. I can't, and I try to, and I have zero issues with kind of like, hold on, let's talk a little more. But I've also maintained the narrative too that things happen for a reason. We all cross. There's no coincidences. There's a rhyme and reason why we're here tonight, why people are watching us. Tiffany, why you and I are doing our thing. I do believe in my heart of hearts that, again, Cheryl, the 3 greatest questions: is there a God? What happens when we die? And are we alone in the universe? In my lifetime, before I take my final breath, I will take it with a smile, knowing that I'm going to get the answer to the alone in the universe.
Do you know how much mail I got when I wrote my column that was like what you just said? I'm 85 years old. I want to know before I die. I had a stack of it like that over a period of 7 years.
There's really, and it's crazy you say that. There's some, I'm actually getting goosebumps thinking about this. There's some people that are hanging on that last bated breath to know, in this case, know this answer. And
a lot of us do know the answer, Kevin, and we don't need somebody telling us the answer.
That's fair.
The ones who are out there, Cheryl has been investigating for so long and compiling all of this data. There's people out here who know, who believe, and when you just know in your heart,
And I'm not challenging.
Nobody can change your mind.
No, I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm with you. You're lucky or not lucky. I've said how many times, Tiffany, I live vicariously through you on this show. You're part of this. This is not just.
I feel blessed, but I do feel like I've had a lot of hard nights, and then waking up and having to A, go to work, B, take care of kids, do the normal day-to-day routine. Sometimes it does get to be too much, when you have to endure. And these things aren't always traumatic, but some of them are. And those are the ones that people don't want to talk about because there's just too much anxiety attached, right? But that doesn't mean that I don't accept this life and I feel validated. And I want other people to know that they're not alone. And I think that's why the people in this field are really putting their heart and soul into this topic and trying to get as much information out there as possible, because we need it. There's a reason. And maybe the God part is related to the ET part. And maybe there's something bigger.
I can talk to that.
Let's talk about that. Yes. Tell us a few more minutes. Let's see.
Yeah.
Okay. I was Buddhist Nun for 7 years. Okay. I wear different color robes now. I'm a little bit more senior, so to speak. We teach that the mind, if you want to call it the God consciousness, the Wiccans would call it the higher self. Okay. The overall, hey, George Lucas got it right. The force. It's in everything, everywhere, every when. Okay. The universe is teeming with life because the force itself is life. And if you learn to quiet yourself, that's why people meditate, especially mystics. And if you learn to quiet yourself, you can hear that subtle, quiet little voice in your heart. Okay. And you'll end up knowing things. Okay. And there's no reason people can't touch things. In New Age terms, they say, hey, all the knowledge in the universe called the Akashic Records, whatever you want to call it. All knowledge in the universe from everywhere, every when is out there to be touched. I spent 7 years in a monastery and I learned how to touch it. And it opens your eyes to meditate on something, and then the next morning, it's not like you heard a voice or anything like this. The next morning, suddenly you're able to talk wonderfully on the topic matter, something you knew nothing about. Okay. And it's very common to see the Lama walk into some of the monks and see how well they're doing things and say, you haven't been touched by the dakinis yet. Dakini is Tibetan for sky dancers.
Interesting.
Okay.
I like that.
And we had one of our high lamas came to town one day. There were like 40 monks and nuns out there, and he liked it. After all the people who came to the temple to hear him talk left, we had a big weenie roast out there. And he's an old monk. He'd go out there and play basketball with the young monks. Okay, and while we were eating, some nuns asked him about, well, we're supposedly trying to believe that there's all these other beings in the universe. Are there? And he looked around all the monks and nuns and pointed at 2 or 3 of us and said, oh, you've been touched by the sky dancers. Tell us.
And talking to you?
I was one of them.
Ah, interesting.
Okay.
So he could sense it.
Yeah, it leaves a signature on you, believe me.
Wow.
So, and again, these lamas have a sight to it. I mean, his assistant picked me out of a crowd of 150 people and said, I know you. So that's how I got to be a nun, because they picked me out of a crowd. I was just there visiting.
Wow.
So 2 other women there. One was from Australia, and his entourage looked at me and said, he plays it close to his chest. I've only seen him do that once in like 15 years. I said, when was that? He says, 20 minutes ago in the parking lot with a lady from Australia, So, they told me to go over and see the guy, and I went in to see him, and he knew me better than my mother.
Wow.
Jeez.
Okay. Now, did he know Cheryl? No. He knew me behind this mask of flesh very well. And that has developed into, this has been a 20-year relationship that we have.
Kevin, were you and I talking the other night about the suit that we wear?
Oh, the chicken suit. Yeah.
This is the suit that we wear. Were we talking about that?
No, it's probably the one thing we didn't talk about.
We joked about it in the monastery, about the idea that
I'm talking about this
shell,
human
kind of, right,
shell.
yeah.
We call it the chicken suit. Yeah.
It's not, it's
I
not
would have
us,
thought that. I would have,
right?
yeah. I have not heard it say that or admit.
So this suit is not us.
Chicken
We
suit.
are
No,
we
no,
are
no.
inside. We are outside, and like this is sort of part of my belief when it comes to amputees, how they can still sense their limbs,
Phantom
because
pain,
they
right?
are not the limb. They are not the flesh and blood body. There's something beyond that.
Let me leave you with a thought on this thing. This is on my Facebook page. Okay. I am the consciousness behind this mask of flesh. I have had millions of lifetimes. I have been called by many names, yet I have none. Okay.
That's nice. I like that.
You know, I don't mean to steal that last thought, but I got to ask you one question before we shut this down.
Sure.
What the hell does the Vatican know?
Everything. They've got 2 copies of our book, you know.
You need to send them a few more.
The Vatican is...
No, Vatican Library bought the first one. And
are you shitting me? Are you serious?
I am dead serious. And we found out that the one sale in Italy with our Amazon gives you that kind of visibility. And we tracked it. We tracked it back to Vatican City, and this one came out within a week.
Wow. That's a soundbite.
Another hit for Italy. And Linda works at a Jesuit college, and one of the senior Jesuits was asked by the New York Times, "Is Linda crazy?" He said, "No," and he works for the Pope right now.
Oh, wow. Okay. So he's getting information from Christopher Bledsoe and Cheryl and Linda Costa. So they are informed.
Actually, they've had if you believe the stories, and I read these stories in the 60s. There were people who went into confession and confessed, I've been taken aboard a ship. I did and all this stuff happened. And the next thing you know, they're on a plane to Rome with the pastor.
Interesting.
Okay.
That would be a great conversation to have.
It's happened.
So
I've read about it more than once.
So I confessed to my priest, and then I ended up on a plane to Rome.
I don't know if you would, but
not the confessor. It was the priest.
That's what's happened to a number of people over the years.
Wow.
And supposedly they had messages from the off-worlders. So I prefer to use word off-worlder. I don't like the term alien. It's got horrible connotations.
It does. I have a lot of terms for them. Most of the time, I just call them my nighttime visitors.
You're on a first name basis with some of them.
Well,
right?
One thing you might try, you can get one of these. Probably you can get it on Amazon. It's about a 12. It's only about this big. It's a very small flashlight. It's got ultraviolet LEDs in it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and it's been discovered. I found this out at one of the UFO conferences in Arizona. That they found out that certain people have been touched or are touched regularly. Sometimes they leave iridescent marks on you.
Oh, I'm definitely going to have to get one of those. I will let you know.
Yeah. I was down at the Phoenix MUFON doing a talk down there, and my host showed me an ultraviolet light that they had. It was a flashlight. It's like a little flashlight like you buy at Harbor Freight.
I think I have one of those.
But it's got LED lights in it. It's got LED ultraviolet lights in it.
UV lights. Yes, I think I have one.
I was going to say, if you don't, Brent does.
I think I just got one the other day. I think I just bought one the other day.
You can't. You don't look for these things with like a Spencer's gift blacklight. It doesn't work very well. But you get a good blacklight. You can find these things. You can't wash them off. The LED. You can't wash off the marks, but they will wear away in about a week. Okay, alcohol, you can do anything you want to them. You can't wash them off, I've heard. But as your skin sheds off, like with showers and all this stuff, they will fade away. But there are people who track the different configurations. Different crews are touching you.
This is homework for me. I am totally doing this. I'm going to have
don't take a shower for a month.
No. You don't want to do that.
We need trace evidence.
I am
your
totally
body
doing
naturally sheds skin cells anyway, but
yes, I am
not
this.
Everybody is touched. Depends upon the crew that's touching you, but some people have the mark. Some people cool. have had the 3 finger and a thumb kind of fingerprints on them. That glowed. Things like this.
I get a lot of bruises. So I'm wondering when I get the next time I get a bruise, I'm going to be checking.
If you show up a bruise, I strongly suggest. Oh, by the way, when you put the black light in a dark room, have your husband look at it. The bruises will look far worse under black light. Trust me.
Oh gosh. Oh no.
I want to be there for that.
But keep a note. If you do find spots, keep a notebook. Dates,
I will.
times,
I'll take some pictures.
And configure. No, you can't get good pictures with the cell phone. We tried.
Dang it.
Yeah.
Okay. Darn it.
But Brent's got all the good toys.
Yeah, but maybe again. But the bottom line is at least keep a paper notebook and mark what the configurations are, things like this, because sometimes they change subtly, sometimes they don't. But they're usually very precise.
Wow, that is news to me, and I will be taking.
It might be 4 dots. It might look like a domino. You never know what they're doing, but it seems to related to different teams are studying different people for certain reasons. It's best we can figure.
Got it.
I've talked to a bunch of people about this, so.
Thanks for taking one for the team and being our specimen.
Our guinea pig specimen.
Guinea pig.
But the thing is, there's an awful lot of people that have a really, really bad screen memory and don't know. I consciously don't know, though we see evidence, but I consciously don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Cheryl, share with our audience, our listeners, viewers, where can people connect with you?
Oh, if they want to connect with me, they can write to me at Cheryl, CHERYL, at Cheryl Costa, Cheryl with a C, Costa with a C, CherylCosta.com. Cheryl at CherylCosta.com. You can email me if you want to. I'm slow on replying, believe me. I apologize. But I do read everything that comes to me. If you've got your own private little report that you've never filed anyplace, just go to MUFON.com or National UFO Reporting Center.org and file it there. I don't collect sighting information, but I'll eventually see it with one of those guys. That's it. And if you want to buy the book, I recommend you go out to Amazon. Amazon has this exclusively. Okay. Go up to Amazon. If you go to books and you search on Cheryl with a C, Costa with a C, and Cheryl Costa, you'll find three. You'll find some other books I've got in there, but the 3 books you're going to find is you're going to find our white book from 2017. You'll find a book called The UFO Beat, and that is all 238 articles that I did for the Syracuse New Times. So if you like a good UFO reading, that's real good UFO reading. And then the pink book is there. UFO Sightings. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Tiff or both of you.
Tiff's got it. Okay. The UFO Sightings Desk Reference 2001 to 2020. And that's the latest and greatest. And that's the one to get. That's the one I strongly recommend because we've got theory written in there. We've done scholared research in there. And I think you'll find it quite amazing. But I do warn you, it's charts, graphs, and tables and a lot of scientific writing.
Nothing wrong with that for us geeks.
Well, some people get upset. It's not the kind of book you crawl up in a chair with a cup of tea with,
That's what I was hoping for. And I opened it up and I had my tea beside me and I was just like, oh, this is going to be so good. And then I was like,
numbers.
Anybody that wants, everybody likes graphs and data, it's there. But
my editor got the first book, and he looked at it and he says, "God, Cheryl, I opened this thing up expecting a nice read, and it looked like a farm report, from the Department of Agriculture,
Farmer's Almanac kind of thing."
Yes.
Yeah. Cheryl, thanks so much for hanging with us.
Anytime.
Pleasure was ours. Love the conversation.
If you ever want to have a conversation down the road about just do the paranormal side of it, I can come talk to you about that.
You're on our speed dial. You will be connected, or we'll contact you and do it again. Tiffany, final thoughts before we
we are very appreciative of this 2 hours and 13 minutes of lovely conversation with you, Cheryl. You were an amazing guest, so full of knowledge, and I hope that I get one in a few years with a lot more information. I'm going to look forward to another one because I know that that's what you're doing. There's going to be another one.
Whoa, don't say that. Okay. We're going to produce the state books. We're going to produce the shapes books.
Yeah.
We're toddling off into the sunset.
Oh, we didn't even get to talk about the shapes and that. Gosh, we
that's
have
another
to. Okay,
show.
so that's the next
part
show.
2 coming soon. Yeah.
But thank you for joining us tonight for Universal Secrets. We will see you again next Tuesday night with another wonderful guest. Thank you for hanging with us, guys. Have a great evening.
Peace out, my friend. This has been Universal Secrets.